Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Fellowship of Nanaimo. Our mission is to create spiritual connection and bring compassion, discovery, and social justice to life. My name is Catherine Hazel, and I'm your service leader this morning. My pronouns are she, her. Could you please take a moment now to silence or turn off your cell phones? Thank you. And I just remembered I didn't turn mine off, but I'm hoping nobody calls me. For the next few minutes anyway. Let's say hello to everyone attending on Zoom. Now turn to the back and wave to the frog. And then those on Zoom can wave to us. Whatever your hopes, dreams, and aspirations, whatever your race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender identity, whatever makes you who you are warmly welcome here. In keeping with our Unitarian Universalist aspiration of radical inclusion, we invite you to share your pronouns as well as your name if you are comfortable doing so. We have a diversity of voices on Sunday mornings, so our services vary from week to week. They usually run from 60 to 75 minutes. If this is your first time with us, a very special welcome to you. If you're joining us online, please consider sharing your contact information with us. You can do this by going to the chat icon at the bottom of your screen and typing it in there. We'd love to welcome you to our community. And now it's time for the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge today that we meet on the traditional territory of the Snuneymuxw First Nation. As Unitarians, we are committed to the work of reconciliation required to address the harm done to all Indigenous peoples and their cultures by non-Indigenous peoples. We have much to learn from the Indigenous perspective, that the earth is the source of all life and that it is our responsibility to honor and care for it. And we have a few announcements. The Goods, Services, and Events Auction and Potluck is this Saturday, May 30th. Doors open at 5 p.m. and the dinner starts at 6 p.m. Today is the last day to donate items or events. You can fill out a paper copy. Forms are available at the back of the hall. Or fill out the PDF form attached to the weekly update, which you would have received on Friday. And for those bringing something to the potluck, there is a sign-up sheet on the bulletin board at the back of the hall. This is a fun community building event, and the variety of goods, services, and events is amazing. You don't want to miss it. And a wee reminder, on Sunday, June 14th, the fellowship's doors will open at 9 a.m., no choir, and the service will begin at 9:30 a.m., so that all those taking part in the Nanaimo Pride Parade and Festival will have enough time to get to those events. And now I'd like to call on Summer Christensen, our children and youth spiritual educator.
Hello, I'm here with my regular announcement that if you are interested in helping to volunteer with the children during our education time, spiritual education time, there is a sign-up sheet on the backboard under Unitarian events. You can do so and just let me know how often you'd like to volunteer. This could look like once a month, once a year, once a week, whatever feels best for you. And honestly, it's just having another adult in the room. You'll need a background check, but you'll get reimbursed for it. I had to do one. It's very easy. So I'm trying to think of anything else. What that looks like. If you're joining us, it's often just sitting in there while we do crafts or a lesson. I think that's about all. You're also welcome to email me if you have any questions. I'm trying to remember my new email. Is it just education@UFON? I don't know. I'm sure you'll find it on the website. I'm sorry. Or find me after church. So thank you.
For more detailed information about who we are, the services we offer, and how you can connect with us, you can go to our website, ufon.ca. That's U, F as in Frank, O, N as in Nanaimo.ca. Let us now enter into sacred time. Leah Hokinson, our music director, and the fabulous Foophonics will lead us into worship through music.
Good morning, everyone. As the Foophonics are making their way up here, I thought I would introduce our prelude for this morning. It's a chant that I composed. The first part are words by Rumi, and the second part are words by me. And the words are, let yourself be silently drawn to what you really love. In the stillness, you belong to love's sweet calling. Listen for the space where doubt can leave no trace. Let yourself be silently drawn to wholeness. Welcome to this place of reflection, fellowship, and inner growth. I'm Reverend Ashley, and it is my honor to serve as your minister here. As we enter into this time of sacred awareness, I invite you to rest. Rest in this present moment with an open heart. Simply let this moment be as it is. Our chalice lighting today comes from the Reverend Richard M. Fuchs. May the light of truth illumine our minds. May the spark of love set our hearts on fire. May the flame of freedom burn brightly within us, now and always. Please rise in body or spirit and join in hymn number 389, Gathered Here. We will sing this morning in a round, and those of you on that side of the hall, if you could follow Ruth.
You are my people.
If you're on this side of the hall, follow me. We will sing it through one time through in unison, and then we'll sing it as a round 2 times.
Okay, time for all ages. I don't know the phrase we use.
All are young of body or young of spirit.
Come up to the front. If you'd like. You do not have to. Okay. May, we've been talking about liberating love, which is something we've been saying a lot, but I've been wondering what it actually means. So today, I have a little demonstration and a parable to discuss that. So we're going to be talking about the difference between a comforting love and a liberating love. So comforting and liberating are both really big words, and the fact that they can be a little difficult to understand. It's funny how when you have a child and they'll ask, what does that word mean? And you're like, I don't know. And I feel like that's kind of like comforting and liberating. So to help explain those, I have a couple of props. So the first one is a heart. We have a little heart here. So what do you think of when you think of a heart, or even just the word love? Any ideas from anyone?
Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day. This kind of looks like a decoration. Zachary? Kindness. Love.
Being hugged and feeling calm inside.
Bing, 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 bing. Yes. Hearts can remind us that, we can have hugs and cuddles and smiles and even high fives with friends and family. And they're all examples of a comforting love, right? The kind of love that makes us feel safe and maybe good inside. And then our second prop today, I was going to bring a better one and then I forgot. But these are magnets. They stick together. Look at that. Whoa. What does a magnet do? Zachary?
They stick to other magnets.
They stick to other, yeah. So if we were, they pull at each other, right? So if we were to put these two things together, which this worked out, I could put it together, we'd create a heart magnet, and we'd create an example of a love that pulls us towards others and pulls us into the world. It helps to liberate or free others from sadness, pain, or things that just aren't fair. And even, I think Reverend Ashley is going to be talking about a liberating love can be towards ourselves too, which can be difficult. So to explain it a little bit more, I have the parable of the river. So one day, as a villager began his early morning stroll, he noticed that the once vibrant river looked slightly murkier than normal and contained some sludge and pollution resting on the banks. The villager quickly went out of their way to clear the pollution and restore the flow. He thought all was well, But the next day, the same villager noticed 2 lifeless fish in the river. He scooped them out of the waters and again thought all was well. But the following day, all the trash started to build up, and the river's flow became constricted, and it cut off water to the village. And naturally, the villagers organized themselves quickly, setting up watchtowers and training teams and swimmers, environmentalists who could resist the swift waters and get rid of all of this trash. Cleanup squads were soon working 24 hours a day to keep up with this increase in pollution, and while not all the debris and the fish could be removed from the river, the villagers felt that they were doing a good job cleaning up as much as they could. Indeed, the river priest even blessed them in their work, and life in the village continued on that basis for many months. One day, however, a young girl was playing by the riverside and saw that all the pollution. She looked off into the distance and then turned to her grandfather, asking where all of that waste was even coming from. Her grandfather shrugged his shoulders and said, "Upriver somewhere, I guess." The little girl responded, "Well, let's organize a team to head upstream and find who's throwing all their trash into the river in the first place." They brought this idea to the village elders, but they countered it, saying things like, "But if we go upstream, who's going to take care of this area? And we need every person here right now. Don't be ridiculous. It's too hard to travel upstream." The girl cried, "But don't you see? If we find out who's polluting the river, we can stop the problem and no fish will die." The elders responded by saying, "It's far too risky and we need all the help here." So the number of fish found floating in the river continued. Several days later, the young girl decided to go upstream herself to find the source of corruption. Upstream, she found a mountain of plastic from the building of a nearby village that was releasing chemicals into the once beautiful river and blocking up the waterways. The girl smiled to herself and began to remove as much as she could. And as she dealt with the source of the pollution upstream, the river downstream returned to normal, much to the joy of other villagers. So, in this story, what did the villagers and the little girl love? And anyone can answer. You're all young at heart. Zachary?
I think that it's that you must do whatever you can to protect nature.
So they love nature. Yeah. What else? What did the villagers love more than the little girl?
Oh, the way things were,
Comfort, right?
what they were used to.
What they were used to. Okay. And sometimes love means making a difficult choice, one that asks us to do something hard in order to help free or protect the environment or others or even ourselves. And when we make choices in life, we want to keep love at the center of them. So what choice did the little girl make that showed love at the center of her decision? What'd she do that no one else would?
She stepped outside her comfort zone.
She stepped outside that comfort zone. Yeah. So as we make choices today, and I'm a yoga teacher, so I always say, as we practice on the mat, I want you to think about your life off the mat. So may your hearts guide you to make decisions of liberating love rather than just making decisions that are comforting. And to end, Thich Nhat Hanh said, "In true love, you attain freedom. When you love, you bring freedom to the person you love. You must love in such a way that the person you love feels free, not only outside, but on the inside." So that's it. Thank you.
We are a community that seeks to be present to one another, especially in times of great joy or sorrow. Now is the time in our service when we make space to listen deeply to significant losses and milestones. If you're in the sanctuary, I invite you to share your name and your joy or sorrow from the mic at the pulpit. As you share, we will place a stone into this bowl of water. Okay, we place a final stone for all the joys and sorrows, spoken and unspoken. And we hold in our hearts all that has been shared. I invite you to join in a moment of silence for prayer or meditation as you are called.
We share in love, we listen in love, we hold one another in love. Each joy and concern, we witness and learn, and grow together in love, and grow together in love.
Our reading today comes from The Heroic Heart by Jetsunma Tenzin Palmo. We see things and we think that's exactly how they are. But of course, it is only how we see it. Dogs perceive things differently. For instance, they have 1 million times the capacity of olfactory experience than we do, which is why dogs are fascinated by smell. Their sense of smell is so acute that they live in a world of scent, which we don't share at all. There are people who have extremely acute hearing, while others only hear sounds within a narrow range of frequencies. And there are those who don't have as broad a color range as we have, and still others who have a greater range. We only perceive what our senses can receive, and like a computer, the brain interprets the information rapidly, works it all out, and comes up with a picture for us. What is actually out there? We can never know, since it all depends on the sense organs and brain mechanisms innate to human beings. And even these functions have individual capacities. The rest is just our preconceptions, our judgments and tastes, what we like and what we don't like. Sometimes things that a while back were considered beautiful and aesthetically pleasing are now considered ridiculous. We look at old photos and exclaim, "Goodness, did I really wear that?" The fact is that we don't really know what's out there. We only know what we perceive with the limited senses we have. Therefore, on one level, everything that we perceive is our own inner movie show. It is amazing how much we grasp at things. 1 minute it is just an object, the next minute we have bought it, so now it is ours, and now our attitude has changed completely. For instance, if we are in an optician's shop and some glasses fall on the ground and break, then we feel indifferent. But when we discover it is your glasses, it doesn't matter, But when they are my glasses, then it is a whole different matter. All because of that little word, my. Everything we perceive or experience is filtered through our dualistic, deluded perception and worldview. If everything we experience is distorted and impermanent, why grasp onto it?
Please rise in body or in spirit, and we'll sing together hymn 318, We Would Be One.
I grew up in an area where the economy depends on a few major institutions: a hospital, a university, and prisons. There's a couple of prisons, and they're now building an ICE detention center there. And recently, someone I grew up with, who has grown to be a prison guard, spoke about his experience of working in an understaffed prison and called it collective trauma for the prison guards. And he's right. It is very scary to be a guard with inadequate staffing. And I'm sure most people who work in the prisons have complex PTSD. They're very difficult and very scary places to be. In so many ways, my former classmate has been broken by his work, and he perceives almost none of them. He knows his rights as a worker are not respected. He understands the fear and danger of understaffing and inadequate time off. He knows that he fears for his life each day at work, and he knows this is very hard on him. But he has not even the vaguest sense of the violence that guarding over other human beings trapped in the prison industrial complex does to his heart. To him, the prison population is just inherently bad people who deserve what they get, and worse. He doesn't really see prisoners as people. So it would be impossible for him to know that his ability to see them as human has been stolen from him. It's a bit of a chicken and an egg problem. America does not treat its prisoners with dignity, and prison guards are often the ones responsible for ensuring that. It's baked into the job. And in doing that work, he doesn't know that his soft heart that would make him recoil at abusing others in such a way is damaged. He doesn't know that many of the people in the prison system in America are innocent of the crimes they're in prison for, or caught up for the same crimes he has no doubt gotten away with because of his social location and race. I remember what kids used to do at parties out in the woods. He was no choir boy. He doesn't know that the very reason workers like him can be abused, understaffed, and underpaid is because of centuries of white people like him choosing their own sense of superiority over solidarity with racially minoritized people to build better and freer conditions for all workers. And this is certainly a choice he has made in his own life, in his own loyalties. But he isn't a curious person, at least not about things that challenge him. He won't seek out information about all that history. He won't look for the readily available information about America's prison system, which is bigger than any other country's. He won't seek out information about the inequalities in the system, why white people are so much less likely to end up in prison, the bias at every possible level, bias in which neighborhoods are heavily policed, who's pulled over and stopped in the street, who is searched, who is arrested, who is charged, who is convicted, who is sentenced to time in prison, all for the very same behavior. The laws that make it impossible to find work once you have fallen into that system, or the fact that more Black Americans are in that system where they can be forced to do unpaid labor than there were enslaved people when it was explicitly legal. Seeking out that kind of information is uncomfortable. Information that challenges your views and makes you question your own complicity with a harmful system. Information that might make you look back on your life and wonder whether you did more harm than good in your time on earth so far. That's a very tough pill to swallow. So I was thinking about this person and his experience as a prison guard and all the ways that experience is damaging him, and the fact that because he does not want to know, he can't be free of that harm. He may leave that job at that prison, but if he does, he'll probably join ICE. He won't change his life in a fundamental way, and he will still be abusing others, and he'll still be an abused worker as well. Part of that has to do with the oppression of capitalism, the options he has been given to either work or starve. But part is his lack of desire to have more information or consider other choices. Many of his prisoners can't be free for reasons that are out of their control. And there are many ways that each of us may not be free due to oppressive forces. But the degree of privilege we have increases the extent to which our unfreedom requires our cooperation. And all of us have some kind of privilege. There isn't a person who doesn't. Privilege is, as the saying goes, a headache you don't have. A headache that is structurally and institutionally built in for a group that is not your group. Maybe the headache you never had was worrying about where your next meal would come from. Maybe the headache you never had was being afraid walking home alone at night. Maybe the headache you never had was being afraid to go to a hospital when you were sick, or trusting that the bathrooms would have somewhere to put the syringe from your insulin. We all have headaches we don't have. My old classmate is not somehow a unicorn who is nothing like the rest of us. We all have privilege, and we all have these ways of avoiding information that challenges us, refusing to shift our habits, and blocking off possibilities for change and growth. So that brought me to a question. In what ways does each of us choose not to be free? We tend to simply accept our mental habits. We accept those that were handed to us by others, such as hating our bodies for not living up to some standard, or feeling that we have to achieve certain things or have a certain amount of money to be worthwhile as a person. Or on the flip side, believing that we deserve what we have and therefore shouldn't interrogate the systems that give us access to medicine and food while denying that to others, accepting the idea that constantly shifting institutions, deeply impacted by years of history and culture, like the nuclear family or the workplace or government, they all operate in ways that cannot and should not ever be changed. We also accept those mental habits that we have come up with ourselves. Habits of believing that everything is very solid and permanent and either one way or the other. These types of habits are more subtle, but they can lead to a bigger problem when we don't interrogate them. We think we have a single, solid, unchanging self to protect, and then when our sense of goodness or identity is challenged, that sense of a solid, unchanging self creates anger and defensiveness, which then leads us to act in harmful and unloving ways. So even those more subtle mental habits can create very meaningful problems for us and others. It's usually a hint that we are choosing not to be free in some way when we just grind on in a pattern of negative thought, an emotion that comes up again and again. When we're faced with a circumstance that we can't accept, we have two ways out: resistance or acceptance. We can act, working to change that circumstance and finding freedom in action, either because we actually change the circumstance through the action, or because at least we have our own agency in choosing our response to that circumstance. That's how we can respond when we're the ones who are the targets of oppression. Resistance can be very small acts, or even just exercising the freedom of our mind. But it's active. It's rejecting an unacceptable situation and then doing something to exercise our integrity in the face of that situation. Or in other cases, when the struggle we're facing isn't an injustice to be fought, we can accept a situation, decide it's something we can find okayness with, or a good life lesson. But if we do neither of those things, if we can't accept the circumstances with a genuine sense of peace and we can't act to resist, we're just stuck, endlessly helpless. I think of some sad young men online who convince themselves that the reason they can't find community and human connection is because they don't live up to some exaggerated version of perfect patriarchal masculinity. They would rather believe that and spend their lives miserable, ruminating on their supposed inherent inferiority to a completely imagined and non-existent ideal man, than give up the idea of their superiority to women and be free of those horrible and unreachable ideals that torture their minds each day. Or the young women, sometimes called pick-me, who torture their minds with the obsession at looking at themselves through the eyes of an imaginary man and being considered pleasing to that imaginary man, rather than doing the hard work of finding themselves. What if, instead of criticizing themselves or not having a strong enough jawline, or whatever the trend is this week, those young men ask themselves why they feel so unworthy, why they have the idea that anyone is unworthy, why they feel the need to be better than others in order to be okay. I think that's a surer road to freedom than violence or plastic surgery. But it's a harder path for sure. Choosing to feel the despair of loneliness and the vulnerability of wanting love, rather than indulging in a sense of entitlement to others' attention. Finding a way to feel whole without constant validation by others. Quite difficult. And we might not fall into such extreme versions of those tendencies, but we all have elements of various social pressures that we have absorbed and that we punish ourselves with. On some level, we're just like those lost boys when it comes to one thing or another. And in order to move out of those habits of accepting unfreedom for ourselves and reinforcing it for others, we have to choose to be free. We have to be willing to try something different, to seek out new information even when it's hard to hear, to try something different even when it's painful to change. And as I've said before, our freedom is bound up in the freedom of others. We can't be free without seeking freedom for everyone, which means challenging ourselves to not just give lip service to the idea, but to really believe that everyone else is as important as we are. I invite you to consider the ways that you are not free, ways you have internalized an oppressive voice that is not your own, judging yourself by someone else's toxic standards, ways you allowed old scripts to play over and over in your mind because you'll only look at a situation from a single perspective, ways that you hold on to people or circumstances that are holding you back and preventing your growth, ways that you have become captive to comfort or captive to your worldview, or are refusing to hear information about your own complicity in systems that oppress. I hope that you will choose to interrogate the ways that you have moved away from liberation rather than toward it. I hope that you will leave space to let go of patterns that are preventing your growth. And I hope that you will choose to be free. May it be so.
Please rise again in body or in spirit, and we'll sing together hymn number 12, O Life That Maketh All Things New. Except I think first is the offertory. So
I think that I'm supposed to be up
I
here.
caught that look on
On my face, yes. Yes, all right. We will now have our offering. For those of us in the hall, Charlotte Joyner and Bill Wolverton will now pass the baskets. And for those with us for the first or second time, we consider your presence to be your contribution. Feel free to let the basket pass. Those online can go to our website and click the big blue donate button on the homepage to give. To help the wider community, half of all cash donations will be given to our charity of the month. This month's charity is the Nanaimo Area Land Trust, or NALT. Since 1995, NALT has been working to fulfill its mission of supporting, promoting, and protecting the natural values of land and water in our area. If your donation is by e-transfer or check and you want it to be shared with our charity of the month, please make a note of that on your e-transfer or check. And for those of you who don't carry cash, we now accept donations via debit or credit cards. This can be done at our welcoming table near the entry doors after the service. Thank you for your generosity towards our congregation and our community.
in body or in spirit, and we will sing together hymn number 12, O Life That Maketh All Things New.
Thank
May we seek freedom for ourselves and for our interconnected world. Go in peace.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. We are almost at the end of our service. After we sing Carry the Flame, you can join a social group, both online and in person. Breakout rooms will be available online for 30 minutes. We will have snacks and social time in the hall after the service. I want to acknowledge the many people who have given their time and energy to creating our service today. The Sunday Services Committee, the audiovisual team, Leah Hopinson and the fabulous Foophonics, and our wonderful Reverend Ashley. The greeters and offering collectors, those at the welcoming table, those who brought food and flowers, and the volunteers who come early to work in the kitchen and leave late, a heartfelt thank you to you all. We'll now sing our final song, Carry the Flame. The words are on both the back and side walls. Please stand as you are able and hold hands or touch elbows as you feel comfortable. Should we wait for the children? Go with the kids.